Welcome to This Week in Missouri Politics, a very special edition. We're going to take you inside our weekly show, TWMP Daily. If you watch this show, you'll know Aaron Schripp hosts the show with me each week. Aaron, thank you so much for joining us.
Of course, yeah.
Each week, we try to bring in some state policymaker, this time some of the federal delegation, and we get to have a longer form discussion, kind of get to know them, get to explain them to the viewers. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, there's a few things going on in Washington this week, so it was fun to have some members of our federal delegation here, and I just have loved the feedback from our viewers.
I think we have a good time.
Yeah, over the last few weeks, it's been fun. You've been driving around the state.
Yeah, she hasn't, but she gets just as many gifts as I do.
But
well, the first person we had on, we tried to have, it's a bit of a flex this week. We had on 4 members of Congress. During the week, the government was shut down, all into being opened. Starting off with Congressman Onder, he was just so laid back. It was really good to talk to him.
Our congressman, too, by the way.
For now, in Central Missouri.
Which was fun to hear his perspective on that. He was great. Always good to talk to him.
Let's take you to Congressman Bob Onder on TWMP Daily.
Fact is that we Republicans in the U.S. House on the 19th of September, so about 41 days ago, we passed a so-called clean continuing resolution that would have kept the government open for 7 weeks. And what is a clean continuing resolution? Well, we're supposed to, according to the 1974 Budget Control Act, be passing 12 individual appropriation bills every year to fund the government, but that really hasn't happened in over 15 years. Mm-hmm. So a continuing resolution continues funding at current levels. So when we passed the clean CR on the 19th of September, folks like me had to kind of hold our nose a little bit because, after all, clean CR continues funding at Biden administration levels. And this is something that happened 14 times during the Biden administration, that funding of the government happened through continuing resolutions. But all of a sudden, the Democrats decided we're not going to do the usual practice of keeping the government open and keeping our troops paid, keeping our government employees paid, keeping WIC and SNAP funded. We're going to try to get out of the Republicans some incredibly ridiculous concessions, including rolling back all the Medicaid reforms in the One Big Beautiful Bill, including extending the COVID era Obamacare subsidies forever, including restoring $500 million of funding to left-wing broadcasting outlets like NPR, and promising no further rescissions to end waste, fraud, and abuse in government. Well, any one of those demands by Chuck Schumer was ridiculous and was a non-starter, much less all 4 of them. And ultimately, this has been a waiting game, waiting for the Democrats to do the right thing. And we always had the sense that there were a certain number of moderate Democrats who did want to do the right thing and reopen the government. But it's only when the pain of running out of money for food stamps, airport delays this weekend, over half of air travel was either delayed or canceled. It was only when the Democrats had inflicted a critical mass of pain on the American people that they finally came around and decided to end the government shutdown. So, and the other thing a lot of folks don't understand about earmarks is that not doing earmarks does not save a single dime on the federal deficit or debt. It just
shifts where, just shifts the decision making. Yeah, it's already authorized.
So among the community project funding that I've advocated for, and I did get in the budget, if we ever pass the budget, another story, is money for the medical research reactor at the University of Missouri Columbia.
Such a big deal.
Yeah, and I don't know if your listeners know, but there are actually 4 radioisotopes, basically radioactive materials that are used in medicine, that only come from the University of Missouri Columbia's research reactor. And that includes iodine-131, which, if you know anyone who's had thyroid disease or thyroid cancer and got in radioactive iodine, it came from that research reactor. We have 60-year-old lock and dam infrastructure on the upper Mississippi River that we badly need to replace. So there are other projects in central Missouri, including right in Jeff City. I unapologetically. Now, if there are wasteful earmarks like the bridge to nowhere up in Alaska back in the day, Well, those legislators should take responsibility, and the voters should punish them for their wasteful spending.
I really think the next big thing for this state, the next big project the state has to accomplish is the nuclear reactor. You have Mizzou in your district, and I think there are some folks, frankly, because you're from the other side of the district, over a couple hours away, that did not know how you would take up the mantle. But from Moon Choi to Dusty to everyone raves about how the time you spend at the campus, the in-depth knowledge you have, and maybe it's because you're a doctor, but this nuclear reactor, it's the biggest thing the state can do.
Well, it is, Scott, and as you know, that as big as it is now, they are planning a second phase, basically a second, even bigger nuclear reactor. And then another thing that can be explored is actually using the capabilities they have there on site to generate electricity, energy, which we're going to badly need going forward, at that site. So we're really excited about the potential. No, I really enjoyed working with Moon and with Dusty and the whole team there. I think Mizzou is doing a lot of things right. Could only keep our quarterbacks healthy. Other universities around the country, including public universities, are doing wrong. So I think you have great leadership at that university. It's been a privilege to be able to help out in a small way.
He was very relaxed. Since he's been in Congress, there's a confidence and almost an enjoyment in his job that I'm not sure we got to see toward the end of his time in the Senate.
Yeah, I think that's true. He is somebody that really appreciates his job. I think he's taking it very seriously, which is all we can ask for, I think.
Doing a damn fine job.
Yeah.
Now let's take it to the chair of the Ways and Means Committee in the U.S. House of Representatives, my congressman from the Boot Heel, Jason Smith. Well, I have to say, I understand everybody that watches this is going to have their own opinion. I do have to say, overall, it would appear as though you have thus far won this shutdown.
The American people have all lost. So I don't think one party can say that either one of them won. It was an unnecessary shutdown. What the Democrats agreed to with Leader Thune is exactly what he recommended before the government shutdown, and they said absolutely no. Scott, this is the first time in the history of America that one party has ever shut down government by the refusal to allow a vote on just a continuation of funding. That's never happened until this point. And what did they do it for? That's the question. They did it for Chuck Schumer because he's looking in his rearview mirror for political reasons.
I've got a pack of Airheads around here somewhere else, but these are not what you're thinking are gummy clusters. These are actually drugs. This is marijuana or some chemical equivalent that's stuck in these and sold. This one is sold 4 blocks from the Attorney General's office. Attorney General Bailey has taken this on full brunt. Secretary Hanaway, or now Attorney General Hanaway, has taken this on. Now Donald Trump has weighed in, and the current ag bill, will get rid of some of these drugs that are being sold in gas stations that are absolutely made to look like candy.
It's exactly right. It fixes the loophole that was in the process that some bad actors have been able to create candy that is laced with basically what you're saying,
right,
drugs. So
4 blocks from the Attorney General's office, I bought this.
Which is unacceptable. It is in this bill to fix that loophole. That's definitely getting a lot of conversation, and it's one of the things that people's been advocating for some time.
Trust me, there's evidence any place on 70 right now. When you go on 70, you better take some time because the road construction's real. But the next big part for our state, the next big project is the nuclear reactor at Mizzou. I know you've been there. I know you've seen it. Are you able to communicate that to the president? It's going to take federal money. I don't think there's any way the state of Missouri can do this. It is a project important to the United States of America, right here in the heartland. At your alma mater. Are you able to deliver a message to the president this needs to be done?
We've had numerous conversations. You're exactly right. The nuclear reactor there at University of Missouri is critical to our security here in the United States and also for our supply chains. It will have to take some federal dollars.
Sure.
There's no question about it. I've been working with with the University of Missouri, the Department of the Energy, in finding resources and also thinking outside of the box. Maybe there's some tax perspectives that we could look at that could help incentivize the growth there. But not only the nuclear reactor, Scott, I would like to say that infrastructure altogether, I think, is extremely crucial. The fact that we don't have a 4-lane interstate that goes from Iowa to Arkansas is absolutely horrendous. And that's why 63, that's in the middle of this state, there is no question it can't be 4 lanes. And we have to figure out a way to make it 4 lanes. 67 out of Poplar Bluff, they taxed themselves. They created a mechanism to help leverage the federal dollars to bring more money in, which has done a masterful job for economic development there in off of 67 and off of 60. But we need to do that in 63 as well.
Well, it seems like I drive that ever so often, probably not quite as much as you do, but it seems like there is there's an outline of what to do once you get south of Rolla. They have a lot of passing lanes and what have you. It just seems like the bottleneck is between Rolla and the bridge there. You got about 40 miles of just so many towns are stacked right on. If you don't think highways bring economic development, drive 63 from the bridge to Rolla. It just feels like there's going to have to almost build a parallel highway, right? Because it's just, you got Vichy, Vienna, Freiburg, Westphalia. It seems like a huge priority for the state. What are you able to do to get the state focused on that 63 corridor besides just magnify what Carl Esslinger preached for 4 solid years up here?
I've been working with our state lawmakers, but also with the governor extensively, talking about the improvement for infrastructure all over the state, including Highway 63.
He could get to his ranch a little quicker with a 4-lane 63. I mean, that's,
He would, and you would think that, we had a governor from Rolla, Mel Carnahan, that why couldn't we have done it during that time frame? But it's just maddening that we don't have 4 lanes from Iowa to Arkansas there in 63. We have it in numerous different areas, but not all together, so we just have to look at all different angles, and it's not going to be easy, but I think that if people have a mission to deliver on it, they'll be able to do it. I think about Van Buren. Look at the tax revenues that Van Buren gets because of the 4-lane Highway 60. Yep. Like, their revenues changed drastically whenever that improvement of infrastructure there. And you saw all the investment that happened. And that's what would happen from Jefferson City to Rolla to West Plains. And I think that in Kirksville. So that's super important.
It's kind of neat to get to talk to a guy who's so involved in the process, so close to Trump, right as huge events are happening. And we have a Missourian kind of in the thick of it.
Yeah, he brings some great insight. Like you said, he's right there. He's next to leadership. So it's great to hear from him on this issue.
We're going to take a break, and we'll come back with Congressman Wesley Bell and Congressman Sam Graves after this.
The St. Louis Carpenters Union has shaped our communities. Through trusted alliances, we deliver skilled professional craftspeople while our business partners provide the kind of quality jobs that keep our economy humming. It's a blueprint that has worked since 1882. Turning Missouri into a right-to-work state stalls progress, wipes out jobs, and kills momentum. Right to work is wrong for everyone. Let's keep Missouri moving forward. Visit carpdc.org to learn more.
Missouri farmers have been doing what's best for their land for generations. After all, no one knows what it takes to feed and fuel a growing global population better than they do. So why are trial lawyers threatening Missouri farmers' best defense against weeds? Our farmers don't need to be controlled. They need to be supported. Keep glyphosate in our state. Show your support at TakeControlMissouri.com. Paid for by Modern Ag Alliance in support of Missouri farmers.
Missouri's childcare crisis is hurting our children, families, and even our economy. Currently, 78 Missouri counties are designated as childcare deserts, where the number of kids needing childcare exceeds the number of available options. Today, some Missouri families are spending more on childcare than housing, and Missouri's childcare shortage costs our economy $1.35 billion every year. Missouri families and businesses deserve better. Learn more at mochampionofchildren.com.
We have a severe weather alert to report here. The storms also bring the threat of damage, winds, and large.
Here's the thing. When storms bear down, we step up.
Ready to get?
You bet.
Our teams are always ready to keep your power strong. Ameren.com/poweron.
Welcome back to This Week in Missouri Politics Special Edition. We're taking you inside our TWMP Daily, a show that Aaron hosts with me, available on all of our social media distributions, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. It's kind of a fun time to get to really sit down and you get to learn a little bit more about what lawmakers think and kind of a little bit about them.
Yeah. Next, we're up is Congressman Wesley Bell, one of our newer congressmen, and our congressman from St. Louis.
So, your opinion on the events that have unfolded as far as the Senate passing a bill to reopen the government, where do you stand on the legislation that's heading your way?
You know what, my North Star is always what is in the interest of residents in St. Louis, my constituents, and also the American people. And a big issue for me and folks on my side of the aisle are the skyrocketing costs of healthcare.
Yeah.
Extending those subsidies because, and these are not made up numbers, Kaiser and other organizations have validated these numbers. If we don't extend those health care cuts, Democrats and Republicans in rural areas and urban areas are going to see their premiums almost double. And with the cost of living, and again, this isn't a D or an R issue, this is an American issue. We got to address the cost of living. Healthcare costs are right at the top of that.
Well, there is no question in rural Missouri, it's not just the cost, it's just folks are folding up tents. I think folks can't afford it. So the healthcare is just drying up and going away. In St. Louis, I guess you could still access it, but the costs are just out of control. Tell me why you think the costs have just, I know inflation since COVID, everything's went up, but boy, healthcare seems like a unique sector where costs have just skyrocketed. Why is that the case?
You know, I think that there are things that, even before myself, I think that our government has failed us on. And when you look at, in my opinion, and you all know this from when I was a county prosecutor, I work with anybody, especially if they're working towards things that are going to move this region forward. I don't care what letter is in front of your name. And this is an issue that has been politicized. And let's be honest, both sides of the aisle, folks have kicked the can and not addressed the issue and used it as political football. And it's time, just like with our immigration situation. Democrats and Republicans support immigration reform. Democrats and Republicans support healthcare reform. So let's get it done.
So I guess to me, what has been the argument that's been the most compelling, although I know you're not with it, to deal with that separately from reopening the government? There is a cost to leaving the government closed. Even your it's kind of funny to see even your conservative colleagues who generally deride anything that is the government. They'd like to get on a plane maybe and go see their family at Thanksgiving, and farm subsidies and farm credit, SBA loans, the SNAP benefits. There's a real cost to leaving the government closed. I've watched even conservative folks come around to the thought that it should be opened. End of the day, how do you balance that? Doing something about healthcare cost at the same time as the shutdown, is there not a compelling argument to open the government then deal with healthcare cost?
You know what? I get. There are two sides of every story. The problem that I think a lot of Democrats have is that we've been sounding the alarms about healthcare costs for several months. We've been asking, let's negotiate. And I'll be the first to acknowledge the party that's in power is going to get more in a negotiation. Sure. I get that. When Dems are in power, we're going to get more. But we still got to give something. And we still got to sit in the room and figure this out, because at the end of the day, half of America is looking at this from one lens, half of America is looking at it from another lens, but they're all Americans. And so my issue is, hey, I'm not comfortable just agreeing that we're going to talk about healthcare costs when I'm saying Medicaid get cut. The largest cut in the history of America to Medicaid was happened during the bill earlier this year. And so for me, it's a matter of, you know what, let's have some good faith conversations and let's extend those subsidies, because again, rural America, urban America, you name the America, and they're hurting right now with the cost of living, and then adding up to potentially $1,200 a month for healthcare costs. And here's the thing, cost of just food, cheeseburger and fries has gotten crazy.
Yeah.
So now I can do without a cheeseburger and fries every now and again, Scott, and I probably need to every now and
You know me, you're speaking my language now.
I wasn't going there. But when there's a healthcare crisis, can't put that off. And when someone that you mentioned, you brought this up, a lot of folks are opting out because they can't afford it.
Yeah.
But guess what? When they have a healthcare crisis, taxpayers are going to foot that bill. That's not just going to be a written off cost. And so it saves us money. It saves us taxpayer dollars when we invest on the front end in preventative care and healthcare coverage, than when we wait until after the crisis hits, and now we're trying to scramble to cover the thousands and thousands of dollars in costs for surgeries and things of that nature. Sometimes some things that could have been preventable.
Wesley Bell, it's just he's really taken into this easily. It still amazes me. He won a race. Nobody thought he could win for prosecutor against Bob McCullough. Then he beat an incumbent. And you can kind of, when you get to see that interview, you can kind of see how he was able to accomplish those things.
Yeah, he's forged his own path, and I think he's become a really likable figure and is really representing his constituents well.
Now for the big dog of the delegation, Congressman Sam Graves. Let's talk about highways up in the whole state. You've been working on a new highway bill as the chair of the committee. Tell folks what that could mean for Missouri.
It's going to be good for Missouri. So we passed our first highway bill in 1956 with the interstate system. And since then, we've had 11 total highway bills. And if you take a look at my time in Congress, I've been a part of writing 5 of those. That's almost half of it. So it's the way I look at this, there are 2 things that the government does well, and that's either overreact or nothing. What the government doesn't do well, though, is anticipate. So if we write a highway bill that looks at the last 10 years of highway policy and reacts to it, then we've completely missed the boat. What I am going to do is try to anticipate where the technology is taking us and write a highway bill that addresses that. We need an environment, a regulatory environment that business can count on, that they can plan for, that they can adapt to, and then invest in moving forward. And you just think about what the world's going to look like in 10 years when it comes to transportation. I mean, 10 years ago, we didn't even know what Lyft and Uber were. And we already have driverless cars, driverless trucks, pilotless aircraft out there. And I mean, it's not about, the Jetsons are coming, they're here.
Yeah.
And we have to be thinking about that. We're going to have cars that are talking to each other and planning routes based on congestion and based on, delays. We're going to have cars that are talking to the roads, that are looking at road conditions and that sort of thing. I mean, it's fascinating, the technology out there, and I want to be looking at that as we move forward when it comes to this highway bill.
There is a lot to be said for the future, but boy, I drive 36 now, and it's awfully nice. And when you were first elected to Congress, it was an awfully rough drive.
It is very nice now, and 4-lane all the way across the state, which is nice with unlimited access. That's good too. I believe in that. So,
let's talk. But there was another thing. I got this packet of gummy nerds. My son likes gummy nerds a lot, and as you can tell, I carry enough weight. I got a sweet tooth myself. These are a thing that says Big Chewy Nerds, packaged just like Nerds. You can buy these 4 blocks from the Attorney General's office in Jefferson City, Missouri. this is not gummy nerds. This is drugs. This is just straight up drugs packaged to be sold to kids at a gas station that you can literally see from the conference window of the Attorney General's office. You guys have a piece in one of the bills you're considering right now, I guess passed last night, that would basically close a hemp loophole where you could take hemp, which has a lot of very legitimate uses, and a lot of folks were taking it, turning it into drugs and packaging them in gummy nerds clusters. What did you think of closing that hemp loophole?
To be quite honest with you, I wasn't aware of that. I'm not a fan of this, problem that we have between states legalizing THC and the federal government, it's staying illegal in the federalized, and it just creates a huge conflict and a huge problem. I think we either need to decide one way or the other. Personally, I'm not I grew up in a different world. I'm not a big fan of it, but because you can't test for it, and you can't, obviously. In the farming industry, the last thing you want is somebody driving a truck down the highway, that's the influence. But I'm not a big fan, but I didn't realize it was in the bill.
I'm about half an Okie from Muskogee on a lot of that stuff. I think I'm from a different time or a different era. My elbow bend's pretty good, but that's about it. Maybe it's the German in me. But I do think it was surprising, as this has been a topic in our state. We have a highly regulated marijuana distributor network, and then we have these things in gas stations. And, to each their own, but I kind of think most of the time, well, I don't think you're going to package stuff for kids that are drugs.
I completely agree.
That's crossing some lines.
That crosses a lot of lines.
Well, I think Andrew Bailey was on this, and I think Catherine Hanaway's on this, and now there's the federal action probably is the precipice where I think we'll see some different changes. You can see he is the big dog. He brings home the money.
Yeah.
What a great guy, and what a great statement by the state of Missouri sending Sam Graham to Congress.
No one has greater insight and has been in this process longer. So it's good to end it with him.
Gets more done than Sam Graham's. So you can watch these interviews each week. Aaron and I will do them long form. Sometimes it'll even up to an hour. With different policymakers, such as these members of Congress and folks from here in Jefferson City, every week on the TWMP Daily. Go to all of our This Week in Missouri Politics social media channels, or mine, or Aaron's, or anybody else's. You could see TWMP Daily each week. Before we go, we didn't have a panel this week, so let's do a Who Won the Week.
The holidays. The holidays won the week. Those who want to travel for the holidays won the week.
Okay, I'm with you now. Yep.
Our TSA agents and air traffic controllers, they definitely won the week. We are headed into the holidays with a hopefully
full staff,
funded government. You can fly safe.
I'm going to say my buddy Jerry Hunter received a distinction from the 8th Circuit that is a high honor for a very high honorable man. Congratulations, Jerry. We will see you not next week, but in 2 weeks after Thanksgiving here on This Week in Missouri Politics.
This Week in Missouri Politics is brought to you by the Missouri Automobile Dealers Association, Ameren, Spire, Evergy, and the Missouri Association of Career Fire Protection Districts.